as you have seen in your field, I'm sure it does as well. The systemic cardiac issues eventually with these issues manifest themselves in limbs, and as our population becomes fatter, we become diabetic quicker. A lot of the orthopedic issues and subsequent vascular issues that accompany them, or the medical issues that accompany them, manifest themselves in the foot quite a bit. So it become a very integral part of the field, but it is focused foot and ankle care, and you're not once you go into dietary, you're going to be a podiatrist. There's no such thing as a kid that do podiatric endocrinology. There's no such thing as that. It's just going to be a musculoskeletal specialist. So that's
yeah, so I like just a quick question, sir. How in IMG I can get into like residency in Canada?
Yeah, in Canada, I mean, I just want to say one point, interesting that work-life balance, right? Everybody wants a work-life balance. It has to be a family medicine. No kidding, right? It's, you're your own boss, you want to work in your own hours, flexible hours. You have a really good family life and a social life as well. Flexibility in terms of if you want to move from one part to another part of the country or another country, it's still a very good, very good option. So this is wanted to talk about that. So in Canada, family medicine is not really different than in the US. I mean, you've got to do the exams, you've got USMLE here, you've got MCC there, so it's called specifically MCC-QE. It used to be two parts, but now it's only one part. And after that, you go into the clinical skill examination, which is called OSCE. And these are the two basic exams that you need to pass. And then you apply for a residency program, which is a program that comes every year. It's like MCAS. It's called CARMS, the Canadian sort of residency program. So I think this is how it goes in Canada. There are different provinces have additional requirements once you pass that hurdle before the your programs in Alberta or in British Columbia. They have one or two extra steps that you have to really follow, and they are pretty straightforward exams-based assessments. Some ask you to do a Casper, some ask you to do what we call MMI, which is multiple stations for the clinical skills examination. Just to certify your skills that they offer in different kind of provinces. Once you go apply the CARMS, you wait for your matching, and you will be offered interviews. And in interviews, basically more sort of again communication skills and clinical skills, and not the clinical skills, but going through your CV. So you've got to know what your CV and your statement. That is, that's where most of the questions will be asked from. And then you just wait for the dates for the applications. So I think it's pretty much the same as here. It's a growing specialty, even in the US. I think I was reading that this year was the record number of family medicine matching in the US. So the same is in some part of the country.
Thank you. Yeah, again, the work-life balance. So I think all of you youngsters are here. So I would say like two things when you're choosing a specialty. One is if you really like it. The second thing is work-life balance. Don't look at the money. So it will come. This is US. This is like one of the. So don't worry about dollars. It will come easily. So look at the work-life balance and look what specialty you really like. Like if like I don't mind being like waking up at 2 a.m. for a STEMI call, but my friend Vikas Yassin will hate it. Yeah, so he's like more used to 8 to 2, right? So it all depends like what you like, and then work-life balance is very, very important. Then I will give the mic to Dr. Ganvat to talk about anesthesiology.
Yeah, so I'm going to take this opportunity to try to convince people to go to anesthesia, because historically we don't have a lot of, especially Pakistani physicians or even IMGs in anesthesia. I'm going to share some data with you guys, because I think just like myself, when I was going through med school and I graduated from Nishtar in 2011, anesthesia was hardly a field that anybody would ever think about. At least at that time, I don't remember there were a lot of fellowship programs back in Pakistan. I think things have changed now. Nobody knows like what goes into this and what are the different fellowship tracks. So I'm going to share some numbers with you guys. The match of 2024 for anesthesia, there were a total of 178 programs and with about 1,700 spots. And there were 3,000 plus applicants for those 1,700 spots. So, I mean, more than double the amount of applicants. 70% of these 70 were filled by the US MDs, 16.8% were POs, and 3.3% US IMGs, and 4.7% were non-US IMGs. Anesthesia has gotten really popular in the past several years, and the American Society of Anesthesiology has been pushing to create more spots. We have about 20% more spots since 2020 in the last 4 years. It's one of the fastest growing specialty. It's considered among the top 5 specialty for US MD seniors to pick from. So it's really popular among US graduates. When it comes to fellowships, there's several different paths that you can take. You can do cardiothoracic anesthesia, obstetric, neuroanesthesia, acute pain and regional anesthesia, pain medicine, which is what I specialize in, pediatric, critical care, perioperative medicine, undersea and hyperbaric medicine, anesthesiology, global health. That's one of the newer fields that our university is offering, and they're only really, I think, restricted programs throughout the country right now. Now, my personal path into anesthesia was kind of atypical. I initially came here and I thought I wanted to do general surgery actually. And I did research for almost 2 years. I did match into a general surgery program. I did a prelim year, matched into the second year, did about a half year of that. And then due to some family circumstances and other things, I decided to just switch to anesthesia. And it's pretty common for anesthesiology to accept a lot of applicants from general surgery because you have kind of that, the work ethic that is required in the operating room. The reason anesthesia is important because I think we are the glue that holds together the entire operating room schedule. Anesthesiologists are in the perfect position to be leaders outside the operating room. And the reason I say that, that's the kind of applicants they're looking for. Yes, they are focused on research. They want to see good scores, excellent scores. I think, I don't know all the specifics, but last year we didn't interview anybody who was 250 plus, but that's just one institution. Obviously, there are other institutions as well. At our institution, we don't sponsor any J1 visas, but I'm sure there's other programs in Florida and New York where they do that as well. But at the same time, you have to be a really well-rounded applicant who is a team player, because that's the most important thing in the operating room. You have to be the bridge between the surgeon and the operating room staff, and you're the one who keep the OR running smoothly. And I think Dr. Hamza can tell you, obviously, when it comes to money in medicine, operating rooms is the biggest moneymaker for the hospital. Everything else follows that. Everything else is organized around that. I'm not trying to minimize the role of any other specialties, but internal medicine and anything else, it's important for them to obviously have the inpatient services, but the operating room is where all the money is coming from. So in addition to being an anesthesiologist or whatever subspecialty you may go towards after the residency, again, you could be leaders basically in the healthcare business. A lot of anesthesiologists are on committees throughout the hospital, they have administrative roles. A bunch of them end up becoming CEO of the hospital and things like that because they really understand what it goes in to keep the ORs running smoothly on a daily basis.
Thank you. So basically, from interventional cardiology, our goal is to minimize the OR procedures. So hopefully, we will make everything in the cath lab. So a little bit brief introduction about for the fellowship after internal medicine. So I started my residency. I was thinking around. I definitely want to do hepatology. So that was my goals. Always wanted to. I did electives in hepatology. And in first year, like I just got 7 months, so I did a GI education. No, this is not for me. Then I switched to cardiology. So for the fellowship, I think after internal medicine, so don't like most of the Pakistanis and Indian wants to do cardiology, but I think you should think twice what you want to do, what you really like. Again, at the end of the day, the compensation is not a big difference now with all these hospital entities taking over all the private practices. So at the end of the day, so it's not a huge difference in compensation. So just do what you really would like to do, what you think that you would be doing, you would not mind doing at the age of 55. So you would like, so I think again, the work-life balance is, I think it's a very important thing when you decide for a fellowship. So think about like different aspects because at the end of the day, the family comes first. So now you're in the US, so if you're doing a residency, the people who are not doing it's not a big thing. So right now, so you're in the US, so just think like you came a long way. So with you, a lot of students who are like trying to do USMLEs and all of this stuff, so they're not able to make it where you guys are. So just think that you will get it. It's not a big issue. So everyone gets it. So anyone who stays in the US, so in Urdu, like वो कहते हैं ना कि अमेरिका बहुत बड़ा है. There are a lot of opportunities in the US. So you will get it at the end of the day. Just keep trying, keep trying. So now we will open for the questions.
Probably go just a couple of brief notes. One thing is that if you look at our panel this morning, and if you look at our panel now, they represent a lot of different subspecialties. There are people from the US, there are people US grads, there are people from Pakistani grads, of course. So taking like a 30,000-foot view, Mustafa, who's not here, I think, and myself, we approached YPC and said, listen, there's enough untapped talent and a pool of people who are going to medical school which are not from Pakistan. So the people go to, Caribbean or people who are graduates of or going to medical school and training who are from US. So I think we need to bring them into the fold of UPNA, not only to diversify the base, but I think it is good for the growth of UPNA or any organization to do that. So that's why we start tapping basically an untapped basically a candidate pool that we can bring into the fold of UPNA. I think that will sort of diversify it. It will change some of the directions. And in the cable, when we get it updated, as you can see, it started out with MBBS and MD graduates only who can be active members of UPNA. We added over the years DL and dentists. Most recently, we added podiatry actually. And that's one of the reasons that Noman is sitting here, because he not only comes here to represent a subspecialty that's there, which is very popular in terms of numbers in Desi people, but I think it's good for UPNA also. And that's why they have the first time ever in UPNA meeting, national meeting, a representation in full of, a seminar, which I invite you to attend tomorrow. Also, UPNA also for this special, this afternoon, they have special birds flying around here. So they did a special kind of, a background sort of a, view for so people don't fall asleep. I don't know how they got here, but briefly also, I encourage everybody on the panel and in the audience, if you qualify to be a member of UPNA, please do so. I think it's not only good for UPNA, but for you guys to have available different opportunities here. I myself, as I said, hearing all these people, I do critical care also. So whatever these guys do or don't do, we fix that. But so it's been a very good ride for me also. I've been doing critical care combined basically for a long time, and I really enjoy every minute of it. But as Moody's and everybody else was saying, it doesn't matter what you do. I think you just have to pick a field where you really like. Because if you're miserable, going to work in the morning, everybody else around you is going to be miserable. Your spouse will be miserable, your kids will be miserable,
and your masjid imam will be miserable, and your neighbor will be miserable. So I think that it gives you a very negative connotation. I mean, if Hamza gets up 2 o'clock in the morning, I mean, he looks forward to do it. So as I said, and there's plenty of money to be made in medicine. Don't go for that. And there are a bunch of seminars here today also, which talks about alternate career pathways also. So don't worry about that. I think in US at least, I don't know about Canada, a piece of paper that you get, which is all you like medical license, for you is basically a money making machine. Do it wisely, use it wisely, don't go overboard with it because it's very easy to get distracted in terms of money making, but there's plenty of things to go on. You have to be happy and just take a feel very, very light. So having said that, I think I'll give it to Gunesh back and we can have some questions from the audience. There's a mic there. If you can just pick up the mic and speak in there. I will give it to he can, no, she can take the mic. Sure. No, if you have any questions. Okay. In the back, share with a question. Oh, yeah.
Hello, I am Dr. Abbas from National Health Institute. Actually, my question is about the field of cardiology fellowship because I want to be cardiologist. So I wanted to know, like, does it make any difference if you like match into community program and university program, and like, does it help in that subspecialty or fellowship, or does it make any kind of difference in terms of the like getting matched into the fellowship of cardiology? I just wanted to make it clear. And what are the factors which make a person who wants to be cardiologist, like his profile will be better for the cardiology? What are the criteria? Thank you.
Sure. So I think definitely that matters a lot from which residency program you are coming. In US, the name matters a lot. So if you have like a stamp of Harvard or Hopkins, so you will not stop anywhere in US. So that's for sure. So if you're able to get into a university program, that definitely helps. And then the second thing is if you are going into a community program, I always tell them like don't go for H1 or J1, so go for a good residency program. So you guys are here. So have you ever heard anyone on J1 going back to Pakistan? No one goes back to Pakistan on J1. So it depends which program. It's a one-time shot. So which program you're going into, so that matters a lot. So people say like we have AC Germany and these all societies, the training is the same. It's not the same. Good programs, university program definitely gives you a good opportunity of training. Definitely it helps if you're coming from university program. And then the second thing is what they are looking for. Definitely. So the main important thing is like if you are a cardiology program director, so the main important thing which he's looking for is like if you will not create any trouble, because cardiology is tough, so it's busy. So you will be on call, so you will be getting like 5 consults at one time. All patients are sick, troponin elevation effects, a lot of this stuff. So if you really like cardiology, then you will not mind that. So, and how you can prove that? By doing research. Research is not like publishing in Curious, it's not like doing only case reports. So you need to have really good publications like in very good reputed journals. Definitely in residency time, you don't have a lot of time, but you can do research remotely with your own attending. And again, the third thing would be if you are able to get into residency program where they have fellowship. Whenever you're applying for a cardiology fellowship, your first chance is in the same program where there's fellowship. So yes, so the answer to the question, yes, we do matters.
Hello, my name is Drew. I'm a fourth-year medical student from SGU. This question is actually for Sana specifically. Given like the US application and everything, I was just wondering, what's it called? If there's anything in your personal statement or anything in the application specifically that you put in, or if you submitted anything like a letter of intent outside of like your actual store that was something that you feel as if it helped you match, etc.
Okay, so psych I feel like is a little different. I feel like, so I even showed my dad a personal statement and he was like, oh, you like got personal and you went like a little deep and I was like, yeah, I think you have to be a little more vulnerable in a psych application and you kind of want to really understand why and whatever. So I didn't send any letter of intent. Oh, I did actually. It wasn't helpful for me. But they really want to look for like why that specialty, and then you have to kind of tie in like whatever you saw on your rotations and bring in an example and get really as specific as you can and show why that specialty. Does that answer your question? Okay.
Hi, so I just have a question on behalf of somebody else. So it reads, I'm a foreign medical graduate looking to work in neuropsychiatry research. I've trained at Hopkins and my passion is, this is my passionate end goal ultimately. I don't require a visa and have a decade of experience. I'm looking for connections in the Northern Virginia area. Should I find a mentor looking to hire anyone with a grant? It's a bit of a long question, but.
I think to be fair, I think this is a little bit outside the realm of the panel. But I'll be happy to connect with you or the person who asked that question right after, because I think we can find people here who are in the geographic area of Northern Virginia that might be able to help this individual.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Quick question for the audience. How many people are residents right now? How many med students are? The reason I think it kind of goes back to the question on application when you're applying. As the associate program director, when we see applications, and I'm sure for other folks who are involved in the selection process, it's really important to understand what we are seeing on our end when we're selecting a applicant. Because for any spot, so for example, for us, we had to pick 2 people, and there are 150 applicants. So the applications come in, and there are certain key features that are really important. Personal statement is important, but I'll tell you, like for us, the objective data, you'll always have people who have really great board scores, more than the number of spots available. Okay, so just because you have, let's say, 240 or you have 260, it's important, but on the whole, we're looking for a person that we are willing to work with, that is not going to be a pain to train. So when we see an application, your chairman's letter, your program director's letter, and those letters of recommendation are super critical. Because even in the 13 minutes that any one interviewee is going to have to talk about themselves is not sometimes enough to really capture. So those letters are really, I would say, make sure that when you're selecting the person that you are having write a letter, that it's glowing. It can't just be, he's a hard worker. It has to say, he's top 5%. Because if it doesn't say that, then it says to me that you couldn't even find a person who was willing to go to bat for him, for her. Like, you have to really make sure that your letters of recommendations are stellar. And you can sometimes get a sense of which faculty would write that letter. And secondly, make sure you spend the time building a relationship with your PD and your chairman, because their letters, those people are known in the fields. That there's not a coincidence that they happen to be a PD or a chairman. And sometimes that's what we really go by, that they have to be somewhat objective in who they're recommending. So make sure you spend the time in residency and training to develop those relationships, it will carry along a lot of weight. And then, like I said, the objective data, which are your board scores, number of publications, oral presentations, conference presentations, etc. Those, unfortunately, I would say numbers matter more than quality. All right, no one will say that because it doesn't sound like, doesn't sound very politically correct, but it's the reality of it. Is that if I see a person who has 30 or 50 publications versus a person who's got 10, we're not looking at PhDs, right? We're not looking at Cell or Nature or Science publications. We're looking at people who are good at putting out clinical manuscripts. It's a little bit different. Having done basic science, so even though I was the person who was doing the other things, which is like 3 or 4 years in the lab, trying to put out a high quality publication, I find in a lot of folks who are going into medicine or surgery or any of these specialties, it makes a big difference if you get in the habit of publishing a lot. And there's a way to learn the mechanisms and the pathways of publishing. It really makes you stand out. So those would be the things that I would emphasize, is that also think about how what we are seeing when an applicant is applying. And those points are important, but it would be nice to see what other folks say.
It's really nice to hear that perspective, and I'm a fellowship director for our fellowship. But I have your question because things have changed, as you would have seen, the young folks 10, 15 years ago versus people coming in. I'm curious, since we have 2 people for 100 and 150 applicants, how do you identify who the guy or the gal is? Because that's I'm really interested in hearing your perspective.
It's a people business. It really is. And I would say that the relationships you make a big difference, right? So that's what we have 2 people who have 216 above, right? That's not what's going to make a difference. We have people who have a lot of publications. So then it becomes a matter of who the letter of recommendation is from and who's going to make the phone call. All these things start to make a difference. And I will say, people who advocate for an applicant, the stronger the recommendation is, and the more weight that person has within their field, carries a lot of weight. Then the second thing is the person themselves, when they are being interviewed, everything on the day of the interview is monitored. No matter what people say, I remember so well that in general surgery, all the residents who would be sitting, they'll say, oh, I'm not really part of the interview process. Like, I don't really have a weight. That's not entirely correct, because at the end of all the interview process, there's a meeting where they present all the applicants to all of their house staff. And they ask the house staff, did you guys have a good interaction with this person? And if someone says even something slightly negative, it is an automatic deduction on their application. And so I would say that be very careful in your relationship building, in your interactions. It is paramount. Of course, the fundamentals and the objective data has to be there, but it's a people business, and that makes a big weight.
Can I ask you one more question? I'm sorry. If somebody leads with work-life balance for you, is that a turn off?
Yeah, I said I think before.
But
In cardiothoracic surgery, if someone said that to me, I would say that they are not thinking about the specialty in the way it should be thought of. Because imagine if it's your mom or dad at the table, you don't want a cardiac surgeon who's looking at the clock. You want that guy to forget about everything and make sure that your mom and dad gets it. And that's the reality of it. That's the way I think of if an applicant's applying for cardiothoracic surgery, they've got to think about it. This is not a lifestyle, specialty. People have the choice to pick it or not pick it. If you pick it, you've got to pick it for the right reason, which I agree. It's not the money. You really have to put that patient. You have to like what you do.
Yeah, I think he touched on the major points. I'll use an example. When it comes to letter writing, this is something I didn't know either when I was at your stage, and I would just go follow somebody for a couple of days and then ask them, hey, can you write me a letter? Please don't do that. Because that person, if it's not gonna write you a good letter. And when it goes into your application, and I think obviously you have to waive the right to read that letter. And when we review that letter, we know automatically like this person just like wrote a letter because they were asked to do so. So please develop a relationship with that person, with your mentor first, and don't be there just for the sake of asking them that I need a letter at the end. I have a lot of medical students who will come to the operating room sometimes and they just like follow you for a couple hours and like, can you just sign off on this thing? And I'm kind of a blunt person. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And the other thing is, yes, I mean, a lot of times it depends for subspecialty, especially. Those are much smaller worlds as compared to the residency program. Everybody knows everyone. For me, in the interventional pain management, like we know who is this letter writer. Either me or the program director or somebody on the fellowship, on the application review committee, they can call them up, and then ask them. But that only we're willing to cross that line when we really like the applicant, and then we'll call them. So just make sure, like, if you're having somebody write a letter of recommendation for you, you actually spend the time and energy with them, so they have some nice things to say about you. And the other thing I would like to say is that the day of the interview, yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're there, they already like you. They're just trying to make sure that are we able to work with this person, and are they going to bring more problems for us as compared to just like become part of the team and they're easily trainable. The year I applied for fellowship, I remember for pain management, I think our program, they had 400 applications. We did 40 interviews for 4 spots. So you can imagine that, I mean, picking 40 applicants to interview from 400 applications, that is a daunting task. But still at the same time, picking like 4 fellows from that 40 interviews, that's also not easy. And then when we're in the process of, I guess, interviewing right now, and we always have a huddle afterwards, and every fellowship or residency committee, they will, they sit down at the end and they try to talk about different applicants. And if one of them say like, hey, he or she said XYZ to me, or they were not really into the into the interview process, then you're automatically off the list. Because basically people are looking for, how can I get this person off the list? Because I have like so many people to go through. We're not trying to like keep, unfortunately, I'm sorry if it like sounds bad or harsh, but you have to like narrow down that list somehow. And in this, the other thing is, I don't know if you guys have sessions on this, maybe I'll make a recommendation. Like try to do maybe sessions on Zoom interviewing skills, because that's a whole different world than in-person interview. I know, like, especially for myself, I can do better in person as compared to like online interviewing situation, but that's the new reality. So learn the etiquettes for Zoom interview, how to be on the call, what background you should have. You have to minimize the noise. You have to have good internet connection. What kind of, like, for men or for males, like what kind of tie are you wearing? A lot of like checkered stuff, it doesn't look good. So I don't know how you're gonna do it, but like basically like you can video call yourself and figure out how you are presenting to the audience over Zoom. So there's a lot of things that go into that. I think we are kind of short on time, but there could be a separate session on its own, how to be a good interviewee via Zoom.
I just have one final comment on that. Very good points. I mean, as someone who's outside of the typical MDDO scope, all our, when you get to these higher levels of training, it's all the same. Where what I always say is, in our national meetings or any meeting like this, you'll meet some very special people. And if you're in the undergraduate or the graduate stage, take the time to go say hi. And one thing what I see, and there's a basic phenomenon, at least I can speak for the Pakistanis that I see in our profession. They're incredibly shy. They don't make the time. But all of a sudden I get a text because Falana uncle knows Falana dad that knows me. And that is helpful. But it would be much better if that young person took the time to just say, you know, salam, hello, email. I think that goes a long way as opposed to, because the connections are good, but that personal interaction goes a longer way. And that's my thoughts.
Thank you. I think in the interest of time, I think reaching to the end of this session, just a couple of closing points and yeah, go ahead.
Anthony, it's a question for Dr. Yassin, since he's part of the Canadian licensing and physicians committee. So what are pathways for IMGs from either the Caribbean or Pakistan to get access to Canadian residencies or fellowship? Particularly, I know you have developed some programs.
Yeah, thank you. There are two main pathways to go into the residency program in Canada. One is the traditional way that you are basic requirements of the degree or MBBS degree, which is from the recognized university. You have all the documents verified or by UCFMG or all their physician apply. And once you've done that, for Canada, traditional terms, you have to be a permanent resident. You have to have a residency status. That's the traditional way of applying the residency program. There is a practice readiness assessment program in which you have done the training, some of the training after the graduation, whether you have done the family medicine training in the US or in Europe. And you want to come to Canada and practice family medicine. So then there is a very straightforward process for that. You go on the physician apply, you send all those documents verified and apply for the practice readiness assessment pathway. And it's just a matter of time that your application will be approved. As long as you have done all the training, which are approved by, the universities that are recognized training for the family medicine, structured training for the family medicine. That's, some blocks you've done with some typical specialties that you have done the rotations. And that's so these are the two. And the US, we see a lot of US physicians, especially the Pakistani physicians, whether they have the family ties in Canada or they just want to make a new kind of life. They move from US after the residency and they come through the practice readiness assessment pathway.
I have a question. So in Canada, we go for joint family residency interview, and this is not a university specific interview. It's not a program specific interview. So what should be a different strategy to go to such an interview rather than a program specific interview?
For the comps, I guess you're talking about the residency program. So residency programs for family medicine is a different program, right? So if you're applying for the specialty, it's a completely different sort of way of getting to the residency. For family medicine, I can say that it's pretty much the same program. That's what we have here. The residency is 2 years programs. They're looking for all the requirements. You've done the MBS or MD program. They've done all those sort of postgraduate training, which is required. You've done certain exams. You've done the English language proficiency exams. And combining all those sort of at the touch base initially, the further requirements to apply for residency. And once you've done that, you're open for a single, application process. Every year it's open somewhere around October time, and that's what you follow.
Yeah. So my question is, you go for a joint interview, like it is a joint, like 80 universities have one interview. So it is not a program specific interview. Like if you want to go to McMaster, for example, and you apply for FN programs, you go to a joint interview, and who's interviewing you, and then they ask you, what do you like in our program, and you prepare yourself for McMaster, and that is your first choice. So what should be different?
So I got your point now. So in Ontario, there are 3 or 4 universities. They have a combined, that's what you're so you apply for that program, and in certain University of Alberta, University of Calgary, they have their own programs. Right? Basically, you need to know what their residency programs. What are they offering? What is the different, opportunities they have? There's a research opportunities in this program. What's the rotations like? What specialties they make you go through? And what other kind of extracurricular activities you can do? You need to know about those programs, and then you kind of prepare your interview for that.
Any other questions for the panelists? Yeah, go ahead. I will make it the last question in the interest of time. The panelists will be available afterwards also if you want to talk to them.
Right, hello. I had one question regarding standing out, like I know that once I mentioned. How do you as an applicant stand out in the sense, how do you make somebody think you're a good team player, basically? You're a safe doctor, you're somebody who's very easy to work with, other than an LOR. What parts of your application or your interview like show that? And not just Dr. Hamza, like if anybody wants to answer, of course.
Good question. I think what I've seen are, if you've been recognized, like in the application, there are different sections for honors and awards. So some people, to your point, with this sort of list any residency specific awards or recognitions that they receive in regard to that, or if there's been a particularly significant event where as a chief resident or a senior resident on a service, you did something specific that helped, let's say, conflict resolution, whatever. So there are certain other ways of doing it. And that would be my thought. But that's a hard thing. That's sort of what you're asking is over the course of your residency, but people's impression is of you. And does that get translated? I think it's a top quality, it's a really important quality, and I don't know what other people would think.
Great. For us, it's very simple. Musculoskeletal world, it's kind of it's a joke, but if you've done sports is an easy one. Athletics, any kind of those types of involvement is an easy one. Especially if you've achieved it, it doesn't sound like much, and you've achieved some kind of leadership position within the team, a captain or whatever. It goes a long ways, and in any kind of musculoskeletal world and called shocks, it does translate.
I don't know anything. Okay, that's fine. I think Dr. Iwan had a comment.
I just want to add something. My name is Tariq Awan, and I'm also practicing in Canada as a family physician. So I think Dr. Saad has highlighted and given all the details, but just to add to practice assessment, the pathway you mentioned that if you got your basic degree and now you're going to get into residency, then there is, I think, in Pakistan, there's some 3 cities right now offering the programs to do your 2 years rotations. So you can actually do your rotation from Pakistan as well to fulfill, and that's recognized. And then Canadian licensing authorities will recognize that. So that's an option if whoever is interested in Canadian products. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I think the panel will be available after the session if you have some further questions. Also, there's a Facebook page that we have. It's to join the YPC. Through that, I think you can, if you are have further questions, or if your friends and family has any further questions, you can, reach out to the YPC through that. And we will have the information of the speakers, and I'm sure they would love to hear from you, with the question and stuff of uncle and aunties as Noman pointed out. I think that's a very valid point. I think we need to, bypass the uncle and aunties and just go directly, to the source. So we'll have that information. Facebook page information is on the screen. We are working through the YPC to diversify the approach besides the Facebook, because I think the young people these days, I heard that they don't use the Facebook anymore. It's only for the senior people. But we're working on that. But I think we'll have a database in terms of mentoring if you need some further help, or if you have any comments and questions. So I think with that, I will conclude the program. Oh, do you have any comments? You sure? He just came from Hajj, so he's shy. So anyway, so I think that this concludes the program. The next session, by the way, for the YPC is tomorrow morning in the same hall at 9:30, just to meet the program. So we'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow morning.